So welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our webinar. We're going to talk to you today about cloud accounting for GP practices. My name is Carl Boardman. I'm a medical specialist at Larkin Gowan, and I'm joined today by Rachel Morris, also in our medical team. Just to give you a bit of background, I've been with the firm for 20 years or so, and I think one thing that's changed significantly in that time is the software we use, and our clients use indeed, to prepare the accounts, so quite a relevant topic today. Rachel is one of our digital specialists, so she spends a lot of time helping people convert onto cloud software, looking at add-on apps and things that run alongside those. So hopefully we can give you a useful insight today in terms of what the next steps might be if you're looking to move to a cloud-based software. And importantly as well, answer any questions you may have. So we did a podcast recently which will cover some of the basics, but today we're going to look in a bit more detail at the benefits, what the key benefits are, hopefully show you some of the reports and the information that you can get from the software. This session really is to kind of help you get a feel for what the process is like. We really want to spell out the benefits to you. We know that practice managers are very busy. We want to give you back some time. Things don't really get any easier, and I think the accounting records can take up a huge amount of time if you're doing everything manually. Cloud accounting has some huge benefits, as we'll see, but one of the main things is the automation of data, so it can really save you time. We know you need quick information that's up to date to help you make business decisions, whether that's recruitment of additional staff, looking at pay rises. A relevant one at the moment, of course, is it's coming up to the end of July, so partners are going to be paying their tax liabilities. Now, if you need, or if they need to take additional drawings to help subsidise those, you need to know where your, how your finances stand for the year to date. And having your bookkeeping software live and up to date as you go through the year really helps with those just making those decisions as you go along. Being on the cloud, of course, we can view the data live as well. So when you've got questions, when you want us to have a look at profits for the year to date, we can drill into that software as we go through, which helps us to sort of speak to you directly as well, and just makes that a lot easier. So that's the main aim, really, is to kind of highlight what benefits there are and give you back some time to run your business. Obviously, the main thing is then looking after your staff and, of course, your patients. So in terms of the agenda, we're going to talk a little bit about what cloud accounting software is. Rachel's going to spend some time looking at the benefits, and also we're going to show you some of the main softwares and some of the information that you can get from the software. The two that we use and we'll demonstrate in a little bit of detail is Xero and QuickBooks, so hopefully you've heard of those, and as I say, we'll cover those in a bit more detail as we go through. So first of all, what is cloud accounting? Well, as I say, going back to when I first started with the firm 20 years or so ago, as a junior, we were used to paper records, so bank statements, invoices, everything was in paper format. Practices were like paying bills, things by check, sending things out by post. We were doing manual VAT returns, and inevitably we would end up with boxes full of records, which would then come to us at the end of the year, and inevitably end up in a loft or a cupboard somewhere, taking up space. As the years have progressed, it's a very different time, and as I said at the start, software has come along a huge way in that time. Now, I'm conscious that a lot of you might be using Iris software, which of course is heavily tailored for GP practices. It's very good software, but I think, if you look at the way that software has developed over the years, the product you're using now is still very similar to the product you were using 20 years ago. There's been some tweaks, but it hasn't really moved forward in terms of the main functionality. Cloud accounting software is exactly that. So the software is cloud-based, so you access it online. You log in through the internet, so you can access the data anywhere at any time, and you don't have to be on a specific machine on which that data is stored. With that, anyone can access the data that's got access to it. So you can have multiple users who can all have varying access rights. Again, Rachel may touch on this in terms of the benefits. So if you've got an admin team who you want to sort of raise invoices, you can restrict their access to do just that. Or indeed the GPs, you might want to give them access to reports so that they can see how the year-to-date information is shaping up, but perhaps not have access to post transactions. That's often a dangerous one. It's stored on the cloud. I think Rachel will cover some of the security information, but in terms of how you access it, it's very safe and secure. It's got the same sort of level of encryption as your online banking. So you have multi-factor authentication when you log in. So there's no security concerns there. But as I mentioned before as well, because it's cloud-based, the system is live. We can access it any time. We're not reliant on you sending us a backup of the data. So when you've got questions throughout the year or problems, we can just dip into the software, look at what the transactions that you're having issues with, help you to address those as you go along, and then move forward. So that in a nutshell is what cloud accounting is all about. And I'm going to pass over now to Rachel to talk about some of the benefits.
Hi everyone, thank you Carl for that. So Carl just briefly went over the various benefits of using cloud-based accounting. I hope you'll agree with us by the end of this webinar that the benefits are endless, and it's definitely a software that will help you and your business going forward. So one of the first things we just wanted to touch on is the safety of the data. I think this is one of the key issues I had transferring clients initially when we started using cloud-based accounting. They were worried about what information was available about their business. So as Carl previously mentioned, it's as safe as you using online banking, use the multi-factor authentication. You only provide logins to the people that you want to have access to the system. So there's no need to worry about the safety of your data. And although, as I talk about later, there is the possibility of using the bank feed, that doesn't mean that someone can go onto your cloud-based accounting and make payments of invoices or take money out of your bank. It literally means that the information that you'd normally see on your bank statement is pulled directly onto your chosen cloud-based accounting. All very safe and nothing to worry about. The other side is about the user access. So there's flexibility, whichever cloud-based accounting system you use to give the right access. So for example, if you have someone at reception that you want to raise invoices, but you don't want them to be able to see your bank, or like the partners, if you want to give them the access to see reports such as management accounts or a profit and loss by month with comparison, we can set their access up, or you could set their access up to suit their needs, which is very useful. Another part that we find very useful is the storage. So in the past, and you may find at the moment, you have boxes and boxes of records. These take up a huge amount of space that could be utilized in a better way, or you have to pay for extra storage. Then when it comes to do the accounts preparation, you have to lug all these boxes to your accountant, which then takes time. During COVID, this wasn't possible because a lot of people were working from home, and a lot of you will know the way that businesses work now, there is a lot more home working. So it's just not practical to be carrying around large amounts of records. So one thing that I touch on later is the fact that you can keep your records digitally. So you can take photos of invoices, they connect directly to your posting on the software, and you can see that at any point that you want it. So there's no need to keep all your records for years and years. So one area that we also really like is the invoicing. You may have various sales invoices that you want to send to your customers. They may vary, your customers may vary between like the local council, the ICB, or individuals having sort of medical reports. And you might want to customize those to be in a slightly different view to each other. This is really easy to do on whichever cloud-based accounting you choose. You can put logos on there, you can choose what information you put on there and set those up as templates to save you time going forward. So you select the template that you want, you then create the invoice. You can then enter the client's email address that then sends the invoice directly to the client. You can then also set up automatic reminders so that the client is told if they've not paid their liability. It also means that you can run reports on the system and see at a touch of a button who owes you money, how outstanding their debt is, and then chase them accordingly. I did touch on this briefly earlier about banking. I think the bank feed is one of the best features of using cloud-based accounting. So it brings your feed directly through to your bank. You update that every 90 days. It will give you the same information as if you were looking at your bank statements. You can then match the transactions to your invoices that you've already posted, completing both double entries of the posting. So it's just a really good function that also removes the possibility of error. In the past, we've had banks not reconciling, which either we then have to pass the accounts back or spend a lot of time getting these reconciled. Whereas using the bank feed, you can complete the reconciliation process as long as everything's been posted within a matter of seconds. So a really, really useful function on the cloud-based accounting, and a procedure that I think you'll all find really easy to follow. As Carl highlighted earlier, if you have any queries and you're unsure on a posting, you're not sure what to do, we generally use Teams meetings. So then you can share your screen with us, or we can share ours, so you can see exactly what we can see, or vice versa. This means we can talk you through any query you have and show you the best way of doing that. So going forward, you won't need to ask the same query again because you have now learned how to deal with that scenario. Another really important part is the time-saving aspect of using cloud-based accounting. One thing that I've learned within practices is no one has enough time, especially practice managers and partners. The list to do is endless and there's always work to do. So if we can reduce your time on producing better records, I think it's a win-win. Using the bank feed, so you don't need to worry about the reconciliations. You can set up rules. So if you have direct debits that get posted to the same place every month, you can set up a rule so that automatically puts the correct VAT code if you're VAT registered. It will automatically put it to the correct category. It means you don't have to have any input whatsoever, freeing up your time to look after the staff and patients. There's also other apps that you can add on to the software. A few of these we'll go through later. Some of them, such as GoFetch, is a really good app. So you can use this app to go onto, for example, your Eon or Light and Heat or whatever your provider is. It can then go onto that software. It can pull off your invoices and put them directly onto your system. So that's another great time-saving aspect.
I think one of the biggest things for me, we find both the clients and for our own kind of point of view is the reporting functionality. So I've mentioned previously Iris, of course, which is tailored GP software. The reports that you get from Iris, you know, they're not the most user-friendly. At year end, we have to download numerous reports just to get you know, the core details to post into the accounts. But I think from the practice point of view, there's very limited information for a general business overview. I had very good sort of NHS specific reports. Above and beyond that, you know, it's limited because it's essentially a cash book. You know, you can't see who you owe money to or who owes you money. But all of that is you know, much better in either QuickBooks or Xero. So I think that the kind of main areas from reporting is management accounts. So this really helps you understand where your business is going, or you know, where the year-to-date finances are going, should I say. So when we set up a cloud software, we'll generally set up the chart of accounts to mirror your year-end accounts. So it looks kind of similar to what you're used to in terms of those year-end accounts and financial statements. It basically tracks all of the income and expenses under heading codes, so you can kind of drill down into premises expenses to see what your light and heat costs or rates and things are costing. You can drill down into the detail and see exactly what's going on. The management reports can be set so that they automatically are generated either on a monthly or a quarterly basis. So, as the year progresses, you can kind of see data for the current financial year. You can include comparative data as well, so you can see how that compares to previous quarters or to last year. And that is a really useful tool for you to kind of monitor income. It gives you the detail you need so that if you see something that's missing, or indeed you see something that looks odd at that point, you can follow it up, drill down into the detail, see what's going on, and then take the necessary steps to resolve that, chase up the income or do whatever you need to do. They're fully customizable as well, so you can have as much or as little information on those reports as you like. There's some really good standard reports, profit and loss, sort of detailed reports, balance sheet summaries, those kind of things. Aged debtors and creditors, so you can see who owes you what money and how much you owe to your suppliers. But as I say, they're fully customizable as well. So if there's a specific area that you want to keep an eye on, we can set up additional reports for you, or indeed you can do the same, so that you've got the information you need at the click of a button. As I mentioned, so in terms of the accounting process, we generally, when we set up the cloud software, we tailor it to each client, of course, but given we look after a lot of GP practices, we've got some fairly standard formatting, and as I say, that matches the year-end accounts. So you're used to the format of the information, and in terms of the reports we generate, as I say, you can very quickly go through, if it's enhanced services, to track those kind of monthly income streams, the quarterly amounts, to make sure you're getting the right information through when you're expecting it, and do something if you need to chase those up. Similarly with costs, if you're looking at staff costs, you can see the monthly data there. You can split it out between departments in terms of staffing departments, so you can see who's costing you what. And the benefit of that is you can very quickly then see again if the spending increases, by more than you're expecting. You can have a look at it, understand why, have some conversations, make some decisions as you're going along. We set up a lot of the reports, the management reports and things from the word go, so that you can access the data as you're going along. Obviously, if you are making a move for the first time, you've not necessarily got any comparative data to in the background to view against. But as time goes on, you can then start to build that information, so that at the end of the first financial year, you've kind of got a year's worth of data. The next year, you can then compare that or compare the current year against the previous year's data to see what's changed. We also, when we're setting up those reports, as I say, we will tailor them to your needs, but a lot of the reports that we also need for year end, we set up at the start as well. Most of them will be useful to you, but it saves us a lot of time getting out the information that we need for the year-end account. So there's kind of time saving on both sides there. Budget reports as well. If you've got a feel for what your monthly income and outgoings are, and you want to monitor your actual spend against that, then you can set up budget reports from the word go. Again, that becomes a bit easier to build as you start to get some actual data in the system. But we've got some clients that use that a lot, and really keep on top of their monthly spend, comparing against budgets. The beauty of this is, and I'll come on to sort of training and development and things in a little while, but the beauty of this is, we can see the data live, so we can see it as you're preparing it. We can have regular catch-ups in the sort of transition process to make sure you understand, what it is you're doing, address any issues, give some feedback, and if we spot anything that seems inefficient or perhaps not where we're expecting it to be, we can let you know so that you can adjust it as necessary as you go along. Comparative data, I've sort of talked a bit on there. You've got from the word go, not any comparative data, but as you develop or as you get through the year, you've got comparative monthly information so that you can see when things are missing or going up or down. And after year one, that becomes a really powerful tool to sort of monitor to income and expenses. So just to show you a very quick idea what we prepare. So this is a sort of a snapshot of one of the reports we use on a client in Xero. So I mentioned kind of individual reports for different income streams. Here we've set out the enhanced service income for this particular practice, and we've split it monthly so that you can kind of track that. And as you can quickly see, if you cast your eye down some of the lines, you can see the sort of ad hoc income. You can see some of those monthly amounts coming through, and you can see the quarterly amounts, all of which you can then very quickly check to make sure that you've had what you're expecting. What this doesn't show on screen, but what you can easily build in is to the right-hand side, at the end of the financial year, you can have your current year totals, your year-to-date totals. You can compare them with prior periods for any number of years. You can insert formulas as well so that you can show the movement in pounds or in sort of percentages to help highlight any potential issues. And the best thing is if you can export these to Excel so that you can sort of generate reports from them. But if you're viewing them on the software, you can drill into any of these headings or figures to see the detail behind it. So if something doesn't make sense, from the headline figures on the report, you can very quickly go into the detail, work out what's happening, and give you an understanding of that, or take some action points from it. This is just an idea of the income. You can set up any number of different reports. Again, so we've got, if you're a dispensing practice, for example, you can set up a dispensary report, which monitors your monthly income, broken down between a variety of headings, if necessary, dispensing fees, prescription charges collected and deducted, those sorts of things. And the same with the cost. So you can kind of monitor your monthly spend. You can show the drug rebates or discounts separately so that you're making sure that those are coming in when they should be. Or if you run a separate sort of private service or something that's unique to your practice, again, you can set up any number of sort of tailored reports to your needs, really, to give you as much information as you need. This really should benefit you massively. And the best thing is, it's all live, it's all up to date. Because you're using the bank feed, the data is constantly updated. So you haven't got to kind of wait for you to get the bank statement in at the end of the month, to then post the transactions. So I'm going to hand over to Rachel again.
So yeah, brilliant. One thing I'd just like to highlight on the reporting with my clients, what I have been doing with some of them is going out, having a meeting with the partners, the practice manager, and saying, what information would you like from your software? And then we can tailor the reports to their needs, to what they would like to see, what they would find useful to for their practice, and it's just a really helpful tool. So now what we're going to do is talk about what else can cloud accounting offer you. We're going to talk about the various apps that are available to add on and the information that becomes available to you when you start using cloud-based accounting. One thing that we've found is by using cloud-based accounting, it is changing the focus. In the past, we prepare accounts, but it's often quite a few months after the year end's happened. We're using historic data in effect and giving you information on what happened previously. Now, by using cloud-based accounting, the information is all up to date. We don't need to wait for a backup. We can log in at any point and have a look at how the business is doing, and then provide support on various things. We might see that some income streams are looking low, or it can be something the practice manager looks into, thinking, oh, we've only received a few quarters of a specific income. This is where the reports come in really helpful, because you can split it down monthly and it's really visual to see exactly what might be missing and any income that you can then chase or request. One piece of software that we've found clients find really useful is the cash flow. Within Xero, there's an add-on called Analytics Plus. It costs very little every month. And what this does is it gives you an idea of your cash flow over the next 90 days. That way, you know for your business how the cash flow is doing. If a business hasn't got cash available, then a business doesn't run. So it's really important. The system uses information from previous postings on the data to know when you regularly receive income or expenses. You can add a percentage to your various expenses because you know they're likely to go up, for example, for 5%, and this gives you a lot of information. There's another software that we use quite regularly is called Fathom. From the feedback that we've had from clients that use this cash flow system, it is extremely user friendly. So anyone can go on there, input data and find the information that they'd like. As Carl mentioned briefly, there's also budgeting ability within the system, and over the time there will be more comparatives. When we do our accounts preparation on practices, we make the majority of the adjustments on the actual software. So that means once we've reviewed your accounts up to the year end, the data on your cloud-based accounting is up to date and correct. So when you are doing the postings, you can look back with a good idea that whatever you're looking at is posted to the correct place. And again, if you have any queries, the majority of us at Larkin Gowan are all trained in Xero and QuickBooks, and will be able to assist you. And if you do speak to someone that doesn't know the answer, they can then pass you on. So if your normal point of contact isn't available, there'll always be someone that's able to help you. So on the next slide, what I wanted to show you here was just an idea of what the cloud-based accounting software looks like. You may never have looked at the software before, so it just gives you an idea of how it looks when you first log in. So this is Xero, and it's a dashboard that you can see when you first log into the software. It's very user friendly. You can customize this so it shows you exactly what you feel is important and you'd like to see. It uses reports and tables to make it all very visual. So you'll see at the top there, you've got the bank balance, which is a really nice visual representation of what the bank balance is over the last few months. Again, these can all be adjusted to how you like to see them, what period, if it is the bank that you'd like to see, any amounts that are outstanding or amounts that are owed to you. So yeah, it's very user friendly and easy to watch. The next one I just want to show is I highlighted earlier about the bank feed. So when the bank feed is put onto the system on Xero, this is what you'd be able to see. On the left-hand column, you have the transactions. These are exactly what you would see on your bank statements with the detail that you'd see. So you've got the date, the detail of what the payment relates to, and if the money's spent or received. So you'll see there that the wording used is very simple. When these softwares were developed, they know that they're not based for accountants, they are for the user. So using words like spent and received make it very simple. On the right hand column, this is where you're going to match it or post it to. So if in the past you've already posted an invoice onto the system that hasn't been marked as paid, the system is clever enough to go, oh, there was an invoice posted on a similar date with a similar detail for the same amount. Is this the one that this payment relates to? At that point, if you think that's correct, all you have to do is select OK. This then does all the posting in the background for you, and that transaction is completed. So you just work through your bank feed, making sure that all the transactions are posted. So each step by step is very simple to follow and very user friendly, which I think is very important. You can then also, there's other tabs on there such as the bank statements. This shows exactly how your bank statements look, just in case you like that sort of extra level of comfort that you're happy what's going in there. And also you've got account transactions. What this shows is everything that you've posted into that account. So then at that point, if you wanted to double check something, you can go into the account transactions, click into it and make it and check the transaction. If you're then not happy with it, this can all be adjusted. So nothing's final. One thing we found with other systems that people have used, that when adjustments are made, it's then quite difficult to make adjustments to them. and you have to do reversing journals and it gets difficult to follow. Whereas with these systems, it keeps an audit trail in the background. So if we ever want to look at what has been moved, we can, but it's updated on the original posting. So all very useful. So the next slide just shows what the QuickBooks dashboard looks like. You'll see both systems are similar. They're both very visual. They're both very user friendly. Again, this one can be customized to whatever it is that you'd like to see when you first log in, and just gives you a real insight of how the business is doing at that point, such as like the bank account balance, which is always important, and various tasks that need completing. So as I said, very similar to Xero. They're both great tools. So again, on this next slide, this shows what the bank reckons the bank feed looks like. So it does look slightly different. What you'll have here is at the top, you can see the credit card and the current account. Currently, as it's blue, we know that we're clicked into the current account. Each line is what you would see in your bank on your bank statements. So you've got the description of what the money relates to and if the money's spent or received. You can see there that there's a little green box where it says one record found. What this is the system's been clever enough again to go, oh, there was a sales invoice posted at a similar date with the same amount, and you can then click into it and go, yeah, that did relate to that, and you simply select match. So it's all very simple, all very user friendly. There's various accounts that you can connect here. So for example, here you've got the credit card. If you use something like PayPal, that can be connected and pulled through. And then you just have to do an update, or we can now do the update every 90 days just to make sure that extra levels of security is available. One other thing that you can add while you're in QuickBooks is there's a section there called rules. So what this is if there's, for example, a direct debit that comes out for the same amount, or it doesn't even have to have the same amount, the same description, every month that gets categorized to the same place with the same VAT code, you can then create a rule so that the system automatically posts this in the background for you. And you can either have these rules so that they post it automatically, or it can come up saying, yes, this is what we think it should do, and you can just confirm that just to make sure that you're happy with it. Again, all great time saving aspects to the software. The other one you've got there is tags. We've found this really useful because sometimes when you're doing posting, you might think, I'm fairly certain this is where it goes, but I'd quite like to ask my accountant if that's correct. So you can add a tag. We generally call one queries for accountant. That means that the posting gets posted directly to where you've categorized it to and how you think it should in the background. But it also creates a little tag that goes onto a report, so we can log in, have a look at these tags and these postings, see what point you've raised, and we can just check these for you. And then at that point, if there are any further queries, we can contact you. It just means it doesn't need to be sitting on the system, not posted, and then therefore not showing in your reports just because you've got a query. It also means that they can build up, so you don't need to contact all the time. So that's a really, really helpful section there. The other tab that you've got is categorized. This just shows where you've posted your transactions that you've dealt with. So if you again want to look in there, make sure you post things to the correct place and make any adjustments if you're not quite happy with your posting.
So I'll just briefly talk about Dext and some of the other tools that link with the cloud accounting software. So one of the main ones we use, and indeed you get free access to if you get the Xero or QuickBooks subscription through us, is Dext Prepare. Some of the functionality of this is available sort of directly in QuickBooks and Xero, but it is a really useful tool that links through to the software as a separate app or separate program. Basically, this is for invoice processing. You can use it for sales invoices, but we tend to use it mostly for purchase invoices. So what you do is generally these days you get emails with PDF invoices attached coming through to you all the time from your drug suppliers or other suppliers, whoever. If you forward them to your own Dext processing email address, those invoices will go into Dext. You get a PDF attachment of the statement or the invoice to a transaction. And once you've built those up over a period of time, you then can go into Dext. It basically analyzes all the invoice for you, so it knows who the supplier is, it knows what you're buying, it knows what the VAT rates are, and it will automatically come up with a suggested transaction that it proposes to post into QuickBooks or Xero. So it basically takes all of the hard work out for you. Probably the one thing that you need to be a bit careful with is things like the drug invoices. So where you're splitting those between sort of dispensary items or personally administered items, you kind of have to do some manual input on those. But everything else, so light and heat invoice, stationery, whatever it may be, you can teach the software where to post it, what VAT rates to use, and it will remember that, pull all the information through, and then push it through to QuickBooks or Xero once you've approved it. The benefit of that being, of course, when you then go into QuickBooks or Xero, you've got a whole host of purchase invoices that have already been posted. So when it comes to then updating the bank feed, the bank transactions will pull through and automatically suggest a match to those particular invoices. So it really does, not only do you not have to manually post your bank transactions, you don't have to post the invoices either. Dext updates pretty quickly. So if you're emailing things through to, and I mentioned you get your own Dext email address. If you send the emails through, normally sometimes within a few minutes, those invoices will then be available on Dext for you to review and approve, and basically post them through to QuickBooks or Xero. The automation, we've mentioned it already, the automation not only speeds up the process, but it takes out the potential for human error as well. It's quite monotonous if you've got hundreds of invoices to post, so this takes away all the pain of that. It does it automatically and improves the quality of the data and speeds up the whole process as well. That's Dext Prepare. We also use an app or some clients use an app called GP Plus. Wasn't going to cover this in much detail, but you'll be familiar with Iris having the link through to the Open Exeter statements as they were, or PCSE online statements. GP Plus basically is an app that does the same thing. So it's an add-on to the software, but you can link it through to your PCSE statements. Those statements then get posted automatically into the software, saving you a bit of time manually processing those. For the clients that don't want to use that, we tend to set up a recurring invoice template. So given the GMS statements or PMS statements are normally fairly similar each month in terms of the breakdown of those, we tend to set up a recurring invoice with all the relevant headings for the incomes and the deductions that you would normally see on those statements. So again, you don't have to manually type everything in. All you need to do is check through, update the monthly amounts that change month on month, agree the bottom line total, and then accept it, and that will post the invoice through to the software.
So another software that we use is called Dext Precision. This is for accountants only, but something that we use to guide you whilst using your cloud-based accounting. So what this does is it connects directly to either your QuickBooks or your Xero account, and it provides us with a health score of how the system believes that your postings are on either QuickBooks or Xero. What this also does is it highlights to us any potential duplicate invoices, any sort of duplicate customers, because if the software is automatically downloading it, it can sometimes create two customers with very similar names that need to be put together. It also highlights when invoices have been posted to different categories, which is also very useful. The next screen, I just wanted to show you what Dext Prepare looks like to give you an idea. So what's happened at this point is you've taken a picture of your invoice using either the app on your phone or forwarding it from the emails. This will then bring the invoice onto this screen. You can then click into each line. It will bring up the invoice on a page. You can then categorize it accordingly, and then it will post it directly onto your software. massive time savings there, great for saving your records digitally. And also, as Carl highlighted previously, the system gets cleverer as it goes along. So it will start to know where you generally categorize each supplier to, and then use that information going forward, saving you time. So a really useful software that we use on the majority of our clients.
Okay, thanks, Rachel. So I think here I just want to pick up on a few common concerns, and I'd really like your input on here. So if you've got anything that you feel could be an issue, or has been holding you back from making the transition to cloud-based software, I'd love to hear it so that we can hopefully address those concerns if we haven't already. But one or two of the things that we often hear, first of which is partial exemption. So Iris, there is one thing it does very well, and that's the partial exemption calculations. With a few clicks of a button, few button clicks, you can generate your partial exemption calculation in the software without having to do too much manual input. That functionality is slightly different in the cloud software. So I'll come on in a minute in terms of the report that we can generate, but we've got a pretty simple solution for that, and indeed some other sort of add-ons that we're looking at the moment, which should make that more automated and easier going forward. But to be honest, if it takes you a few minutes more to do the monthly partial exemption calculation, the time saving that you get back from the bank feed and the automatic invoice processing far outweighs any additional time that you would spend dealing with VAT. So that really isn't too much of an issue. We've had people ask, what happens if they don't? Are there any sort of downsides of staying on the current software? Hopefully we've spelled out the benefits to you of moving, but making tax digital for self-assessment is still on HMRC's radar. The timing of the introduction of that has been moved back. So it was due to come in next year, but that's been deferred. But we've already seen making tax digital for VAT. So I believe if you use Iris software, you either have to have an add-on, which will then file your return online. Don't need any of that with the cloud accounting software. It automatically feeds into your HMRC online account. So you can submit the VAT returns through the software. The same will be the case when we come on to making tax digital. So when you have to submit quarterly profit and loss reports, all of that information pulls through from the software and will automatically be uploaded when you click the button to do so to HMRC. So that's going to be coming. So if you haven't already moved, you might as well get ahead of it and have a look at that now. The other thing is that we've already sort of talked about the reporting and the sort of time savings for both you and us. Because the reports that we get out of the cloud software are so much better and so much more useful than they are in desktop softwares, it does now take us a lot longer to prepare sets of accounts on desktop software. So as a result, the cost savings that we have internally on the cloud accounting clients, we're able to pass those savings on. And where we're still using desktop software and it takes longer, there is effectively additional cost in your fee for that. So in most cases, we see a reduction in cost when we're moving over to cloud-based software. Big concern, I guess, is on overtraining. It's a lot to take in. It's a new system. It looks a bit different to what we're used to. As Rachel's already said, we're all trained on cloud-based software. So if you can't, if you can't get hold of your usual contact, there's people available in the team who can log in there and then see what's happening, talk you through any issues there and then. We've also got a very good digital team, in the firm generally outside of the medical team. So if it is something that we can't answer instantly, we can always get in touch with them. They liaise with the software providers directly. So no matter the issue, we can always address those pretty quickly for you. The onboarding sort of process, I mentioned a little bit about that earlier, is pretty well structured. We do some initial training to kind of get you used to the basics. We then have catch-up training sessions with you normally that addresses any issues in those first few weeks, fine-tunes how you post things, so we're here to support you every step of the way. I think a big thing is timing. So the timing of the transfer, if you're March year end, you might be thinking we've missed the boat for this year to transfer onto cloud. But that's not necessarily the case. We've had a number of clients who sort of said, we really don't want to have to regurgitate the information for April, May, June on the new software when we've already dealt with it in Iris. But then actually when they've gone through the process at this time of year, they've got 3 months of data that they can use to really get up to speed with. So when you can link the bank, that pulls all of those transactions through. As Rachel said, it very quickly starts to learn, how those are posted. You've got Dext potentially that you can put all your invoices on, so very, very quickly you can regenerate those 3 months of data without too much effort. And of course, because you're then using it, quite significantly at the start, you get used to how to do things, and we're there to support you, as I said, along the way. So very quickly you get up to speed and start to see the benefits of those time savings. If you're not a March year end and you're a June year end, now is the perfect time to look at it. You'll have just finished, presumably, posting your June transactions, and probably then sending those over to us or your accountant to process the year-end accounts. It's no better time really. You're at the start of your financial year, so you can make a clean break, move from one software to the other, and it's the perfect time to do so. I haven't put it on the slide, but cost is probably another question that we get asked. So just very quickly, Iris GP accounts seems to be over £400 plus VAT per annum, I believe. Our cloud software, if you get it through us, starts at about £260 plus VAT per annum for the basic software. You get free access to Dext as well with that. So most clients don't need any more than that. There is a QuickBooks Advanced option, which is a bit more expensive. So I think that's currently £660, but that's generally geared for much bigger clients and who want more complex reporting functionality. So yeah, there's a variety, but generally speaking, the cloud software is cheaper than the desktop versions. So that's some of the, hopefully put to bed some of the common concerns. I mentioned VAT and partial exemption. So just to show you what we get from the software, there is a summary report that you can run at the end of each month or quarter if you're doing quarterly returns, that splits out all of the income and expenses by VAT rate. So whilst you then need to run a separate spreadsheet alongside to do your monthly partial exemption calculation, you are literally just lifting the figures straight from this report into a spreadsheet that we can give you. I mentioned we're looking currently at automating this process so that you can kind of export that report to Excel, run a macro and automatically populate the figures from there. So that's kind of in progress at the moment, but it really doesn't take much longer to do the returns this way. And you've got the added benefit of then being able to submit the VAT return directly from your software at the click of a button. We're coming to the end of the presentation now. So just to kind of wrap up and summarize where we're at. If you're not on cloud accounting software already, we really urge you to get in touch with us to sort of talk about where you are now, where you might want to get to, and that includes some of the specific items that you deal with as a practice. And then we can really start to look at how we're going to get there. We can give you a quote, we can lay out timescales for you, talk you through some of the logistics. Hopefully we've given you an idea of some of those as we've gone along today. But the process is pretty quick and easy, and we can fairly quickly get you up to speed, get the team up to speed as well if you've got multiple people dealing with finances, and support you along that journey. So if you want to get in touch with your usual contact, they should be able to help you, or alternatively, me or Rachel would be happy to have an initial conversation with you about the next steps. All our contact details are on the website, so please do get in touch.
So one query that I've had come through is, how do you prepare VAT returns using the cloud-based software? So what happens is, as you prepare each section and post each line on your software, you then select the relevant VAT code that it relates to. These we can customize so that they're easy for you to understand and what you're used to seeing. Then the VAT return is put together directly on your cloud accounting system. We can then check it. There's an error checker on QuickBooks, for example, that highlights any possible duplicates, the highest amounts posted to each VAT code, and look into any transactions. And then you can simply submit it directly from your chosen cloud accounting software. So the system's very simple and really easy to use. So yeah, great question.
Yeah, thanks, Rachel. That looks to be it for the minute. So hopefully we've kind of covered everything that people are thinking of, or any concerns. But as I say, if you've got questions on following on from this, we really would urge you to think about this if you haven't already. Please do get in touch, and we'd be more than happy to help. Thanks very much, everyone, for listening, and we hope you found it useful.